350, Pro Tem De Leon. This is SB 350, Clean Energy and Pollution Reduction Act. Again, we'll do the author's presentation and then three main support witnesses, additional support witnesses, and three opposition witnesses.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to all my colleagues. First, I don't know how you like to, if you want to go over the amendments agreed upon engaging with your wonderful staff. However you like, Mr. Chair, we can go right into the content of. Okay, thank you so very much.
You can go ahead and present.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as well as colleagues, this chamber has been very instrumental in California's climate leadership. With the passage of our landmark climate policy, AB 32, as well as our California Clean Car Standards, your predecessors right here in this very same chamber, the California State Assembly, established a framework that is now widely considered a model for the world. Both of our houses just recently had the pleasure and the privilege of hosting Ms. Christiana Figueres, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Ms. Figueres has overseen, as we all know, and facilitated global climate change negotiations for decades. She said California has figured it out before everyone else has. We are demonstrating that it is in fact possible to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and grow our economy at the same time. We have answered the critical question that we can indeed delink carbon emissions from GDP. We are doing so while also protecting the most vulnerable in our society, the poor, and those that bear the disproportionate burdens of pollution and the impacts of climate change. Now, right now, California residents in our poorest districts are suffering from the worst air quality in the nation. In fact, California is home to the 5 most polluted cities in the nation, according to the American Lung Association. We are dealing with a historic drought that is costing jobs on our farms, jobs on our ranches, and leaving thousands without water for even the most basic daily needs. We have crafted a system of policies that recognizes, as our Holy See, Pope Francis, recently did in his encyclical, that those who suffer the most from our consumption and excess are those who contribute least to the problem and who are the least able to protect themselves from poor air quality and other environmental hazards. We're talking about children. We're talking about the elderly, the poor, the frail, and the sick. But right now, we're implementing programs to ensure that the benefits of our climate change policies go where they're needed the most. And it took courage. It took courage to reach across the aisle, to look past the next election cycle, and to hold firm in the face of waves of doubt and alarm unleashed by certain oil groups as well as other industry groups. They said that this would destroy, in fact, our economy. It would bring it to a grinding halt. They said it would result in another energy crisis. And Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to read just a few of those statements because they're largely the same ones that we're going to be here today with regards to SB 350. We'll hear today from the California Manufacturers and Technology Association, who back in 2006 told the Los Angeles Times, there's no way to get to these targets except by stopping the use of energy. And that's in reference to the Climate Change, Climate Warming Solutions Act of 2006 that originated from this great body, the California State Assembly, where I come from. The chief economist of the American Council for Capital Formation told the Los Angeles Times, also in June 2006, my guess is that energy use would have to come down close to 40%. It would practically shut the state down. And in 2002, the California Car Standards, the Moss Brothers Auto Group wrote in a letter to then Governor Gray Davis, this bill could very well lead us down the road to another energy crisis. Now, the California car standards are the car standards for the entire nation. So if you live in Alabama or Arizona or a right-to-work state like Texas, Louisiana, if you live in upper state New York, when you purchase a car, it's a California standard car based on the design that was formulated right here in this very chamber. Now, as we know, none of these doomsday predictions came to fruition. In fact, the opposite happened. Our economy continues to grow. We have weathered a global financial crisis, and we have come back stronger than ever. We have added more jobs since the end of the recession than any other state, and we continue to grow faster at a faster rate than any other state. Our GDP is nearly 30% higher than it was a decade ago when AB 32 was signed into law, and our population has also grown. Our energy use has increased, and we are now the 8th largest economy in the world, and yet our greenhouse gas emissions are falling rapidly. And thanks to the leadership of this chamber, in fact, in a bipartisan, collaborative manner, we have added clean energy technology to our mantle of economic leadership, right there with entertainment, biotech, information tech, as well as agriculture. And the world just isn't watching what we do here in the state of California. They're actually following, and they're acting. California has already partnered with 2 provinces in Canada, both Quebec as well as Ontario, to extend our cap-and-trade program. We have signed agreements with sovereign nations, just recently with China as well as Mexico, and other nations around the world to coordinate our efforts to share best practices and to commit to even further action. And even though Congress is currently mired in gridlock, the nation is moving forward on clean energy with the Clean Power Plan, with new fuel efficiency standards for cars and trucks that are modeled after our own standards that were designed in this chamber. President Obama has signed agreements with China as well as Brazil to limit emissions, increase our use of renewable energy, and to clean up our air. So the stage is set for a binding global agreement. All this time, California was leading the charge, and we're stronger because of it. We have a head start, no doubt about it, on building the new economy of tomorrow, but we still have a long way to go. Now, we cannot afford to keep the status quo. We need to break the stranglehold that certain types have or certain industries have right now on our economy and give consumers more options for cleaner and more sustainable ways to power their homes, their businesses, as well as their cars. SB 350 will build on a legacy that has already started in this very same chamber, the Assembly. And I'm very proud to partner with this chamber, with you, Mr. Chair, as well as to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle on this issue as we move forward in writing a next chapter, a new chapter for California's climate leadership. This is a moment in history that will have consequences that last long after we leave this earth. With that, Mr. Chair, as well as Mr. Vice Chair and my colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. And we'll have 3 main support witnesses for 3 minutes each.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem and members of the committee. My name is Laura Wislin, and I'm a senior energy analyst with the Union of Concerned Scientists. I'm here today in strong support of SB 350. As you know, climate change is one of the largest threats to the economic vitality and environmental health of our country and the state, and 350 would make meaningful reductions to the amount of fossil fuels that we burn, which is an absolute critical strategy to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In general, we are very supportive of the amendments, and I'll be quick because I know there's a lot of supporters here today. I would like to flag that we are concerned about one amendment on natural gas. We don't believe that the science supports long-term natural gas in terms of reducing our emissions in our transportation sector. But aside from that, we are extremely supportive of what this bill is accomplishing. We think it's building on several successful policies that the state has had for a long time, and look forward to working with the author in this committee on moving the bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Mark Joseph on behalf of the Coalition of California Utility Employees. The RPS program that this legislature enacted 3 years ago is one of the most successful programs the state has ever embarked on. We have dramatically increased the amount of renewable energy we have in the state. We've improved air quality. We have increased electric reliability. And we've bought insurance against future increases in the price of natural gas, which fuels much of the remaining electricity generation. We've also created tens of thousands of construction jobs, good construction jobs throughout the state, oftentimes in areas where the other economic opportunities have been very bleak. The job stories is an incredible story. It was what we hoped for, and it's turned out to be true. And fortunately, we've done it at much, much less cost than was believed and predicted just 3 years ago. At the time when the current RPS program was enacted, typical price for renewable power was, say, $120 per megawatt hour. There are now published prices down at $53, less than half of the price of just 3 years ago. And there's every reason to think this trajectory will continue. This is an incredibly successful program. We ought to keep it going pretty much on the same path that we have. It ain't broke. It's actually doing very well. It doesn't need fixing. We need to do it the way it should. I do want to address one issue which has been talked about a lot as this bill has progressed, and that's the question of whether rooftop solar should count as part of the RPS requirement. First of all, rooftop solar does count. It counts as an unbundled renewable energy credit. Those credits are available right now. What has been requested by some is that they count as what is known in the jargon as bucket one, local renewables. There are two problems with this, law and money. Real fast in the law. As the analysis correctly observed, we can't just all of a sudden declare that rooftop solar qualifies in bucket one. If we did, then there would be no constitutional basis for saying that rooftop solar in Arizona or Nevada or anywhere else didn't qualify the same way. It would completely undermine the program. If we simply awarded the renewable energy credits to the utilities, then we would be taking that property from the current owners, from the leasing companies and from the homeowners. Constitutional problem. Finally, if we say, okay, let's say the utilities aren't going to take them, they're going to buy the excess energy in the middle of the day. Well, that's fine, but then we're into FERC jurisdiction, and the utilities are mandated by federal law to pay avoided cost, which is approximately 5 cents. That's fine, but that completely undermines the net metering structure where they're effectively being paid at the full retail rate, 20, 25, 30 cents per kilowatt hour. You can't have it both. We can't have a net metering program which has been extraordinarily successful in expanding rooftop solar and also counted as part of the RPS program. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Scott Wetch on behalf of the California State Association of Electrical Workers, the California State Pipe Trades Council, and the Western States Council of Sheet Metal Workers. When Byron Shearer authored the initial RPS bill, it established in the Public Resources Code the basis and foundation as to why we need an RPS. And it laid out 3 goals or objectives for the foundation of the entire RPS program. Number 1, to reduce California's reliance on fossil fuel. Number 2, to clean California's environment. And number 3, to create economic development and jobs within California. For more than 4 years, we battled the Schwarzenegger administration, who wanted to give in to the easiest way to reach a symbolic 33% by allowing unlimited use of renewable energy credits, unlimited use of power from outside California, offsets and off-ramps, all of which robbed California ratepayers, or would have robbed California ratepayers, of both the environmental benefit and the jobs and economic development that they deserve for the rate fees that they pay. This legislature resisted that, and this governor signed the 33% RPS. All the doomsday projections about how we would have runaway utility rates have not occurred. More than 90% of the power that has been procured for the RPS delta between 20 and 33% has been built in California to the benefit of everybody's constituents in this committee. Cleaning California's air, and the price has gone steadily down, as was outlined by Mr. Joseph. So we are here in strong support and encourage this committee and the legislature to resist those folks who are seeking to water down the standards that we've established, to pass 350, to continue and work on it, but to pass a robust 50% RPS and keep California working. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'd just like to hear from additional witnesses in support. Just additional witnesses in support. Please state your name, your affiliation, and your position.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mark Aprea on behalf of ChargePoint, we want to thank Senator DeLeon for introducing the bill, and we support the measure.
Mr. Chairman and members, Delaney Hunter on behalf of Berkshire Hathaway Energy and First Solar in strong support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Justin Fanzel on behalf of Thompson Power Inc. in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Mark Weideman on behalf of BYD Motors, an LA-based electric vehicle manufacturer, also on behalf of Wireless Advanced Vehicle Electrification, both in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Chadman with Advanced Energy Economy in strong support of SB 350.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Keys, Eagle Crest Energy. There's been a lot of discussion of storage along with the renewables. I thank the author for including storage in this, and we intend to continue working with the author as it moves forward.
You support the bill?
Thank you. Melissa Cortez Roth on behalf of the California Wind Energy Association in strong support of the 50% RPS and the existing RPS structure. We share the concerns with rooftop solar that have been outlined already. Thank you.
Great. At this point, we're just going to name your name, affiliation, and position on the bill. Thank you. And at this point, you should all be supports.
Sylvia Solis Shaw on behalf of the City of Santa Monica in strong support.
Thank you.
Emily Pappas for Marin Clean Energy. Want to work on cost allocation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle Lynch on behalf of CalSTAR and the California Association of Local Conservation Corps in support.
Thank you.
Corey Bullis on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund in support.
Thank you.
Caitlin Rodner Sutter on behalf of Catholic Charities, Diocese of Stockton, and we are in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Burnell with the California Catholic Conference. We have a late letter of support for distribution.
Thank you.
Kathy Durvin with the Public Health Institute and the Center for Climate Change and Health in strong support.
Thank you.
Alex Jackson on behalf of NRDC in support of the bill, but opposed to the committee's amendments today related to natural gas, which we think are overbroad and fail to recognize that in some instances, natural gas vehicles can increase greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Parin Shah with APEN, Asian Pacific Environmental Network in strong support. Agree with the natural gas.
Thank you.
Environment California, support, agree with Alex's comments.
Thank you.
Josh Malone for the U.S. Green Building Council in support of the energy efficiency provisions.
Thank you.
Kyle Jones of Sierra Club California in support, also echoing NRDC's amendment.
Thank you.
Kelly Denton on behalf of California League Conservation Voters in support, also echoing NRDC's comments.
Thank you.
Estrella Service with the California Environmental Justice Alliance in strong support and would like to see promotion of local renewable energy in disadvantaged communities. Thank you.
Thanks.
Juan Altamirano, Audubon, California. Also echo the comments that NRDC made.
Thank you.
Quentin Foster on behalf of the California Environmental Justice Alliance also echo the comments that Estrella Service made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afrak Vargas with the Alliance for Solar Choice in support of rooftop solar.
Thank you.
Walker Wright with Sunrun in support of rooftop solar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trudy Schaefer for the League of Women Voters of California in support. We do wish to see and have time to evaluate the amendments taken.
Thank you.
Ken Jones with 350 Bay Area and a delegate with Assembly District 10 representing the slate of elected delegates from that district. We are in support. We would prefer this maybe be numbered SB 380 for 80%, but we know we can do 50%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the next bill. Thank you.
Elizabeth Ferguson, 350 Marin and 350 Bay Area in support. And again, 350, 380 would be even better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Klopfenstein with the Center for Sustainable Energy in support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Ryan Kenny on behalf of Clean Energy and also our trade association, the Bioenergy Association of California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine Austin Scott on behalf of Bosch and Climate Tech in support.
Thank you.
Erin Niemela representing Next Gen Climate Action, the Efficiency Council, and Large Scale Solar in support. We do have concerns about the amendment raised in the analysis on distributed generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Malnowski-Ball on behalf of the California Biomass Energy Alliance. We have a support position looking forward to working with the author on amendments to deal with existing biomass facilities.
Thank you.
Jeremy Smith on behalf of the State Building Trades, also in support.
Thank you.
Gareth Elliott with the Solar Energy Industries Association in support, as well as the Energy Storage Alliance.
Thank you.
Duncan McFetters representing the American Wind Energy Association in strong support.
Thank you.
Andrea York on behalf of the Clean Power Campaign in strong support.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Utility Reform Network in support. We do have some concerns with the proposed amendments.
Julie Snyder, representing Planning and Conservation League, in support.
Gil Tupidi with the California Municipal Utilities Association. We are supportive amended, Mr. Chairman, and we're very hopeful that with the legislature's good help and efforts, we can count behind the meter rooftop solar as bucket one. We have some additional issues also that we're happy to work with the senator on. This is an important piece of legislation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tanya Derivi with the Southern California Public Power Authority, also supportive amended.
Thank you.
Mario DiBernardo with the Northern California Power Agency. Supportive amended. We'd like to see DG get full value. We also like to ensure that utilities with over 50% of hydro aren't forced to be over-resourced.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Will Gonzalez on behalf of the California Solar Energy Industry Association and the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, both supportive amended. DG number one, and for SMUD, the transportation issue is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Blix with the Independent Energy Producers Association, also with a supportive amend position. We have some concerns with the amendments regarding counting behind the meter DG, as well as we'd like to see some tweaks regarding what resources can help integrate renewables reliably and affordably.
Thank you.
Alice Kessler here on behalf of Covanta Energy, and we have a supportive amended position. We have an issue with our Stanislaus Resource Recovery Facility. We've been working with the author's office and look forward to continuing a discussion of that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kira Ross on behalf of the City of Pasadena. We don't actually have a position. We're trying to get to supportive amend and really would like to support the bill. We have a remaining issue that we're trying to work on dealing with our existing over generation and municipal bonds and potentially violating the agreements on those bonds and how we go forward on that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support? Okay. Can I have the opposition come forward, please? We'll have three main support witnesses. I'm sorry, three main opposed witnesses.
Mr. Chairman and members, Eloy Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association, representing the state's major refiners, importers, and producers of oil, gasoline, diesel, and transportation fuels. Our members account for approximately 92% of the transportation fuels in use today in California. There were some recommendations for renaming or renumbering the bill. Might we offer up SB 250? Maybe just 250% components. There are three distinct pieces in this bill. An RPS, which is the subject of this committee, energy efficiency, also the subject of this committee, and then there's our petroleum reduction. We believe it is entirely arbitrary, entirely aggressive, infeasible, and we're not even sure what the main purpose other than to punish petroleum resources. It's not a greenhouse gas standard. All fuels are capped from a greenhouse gas perspective. That's AB 32. Fuels are under the cap and trade program. Greenhouse gas emissions from fuels are capped and will be declining to the state's requirement. We have the cleanest burning gasoline and diesel in the world. That was reformulated gasoline 1, 2. Our manufacturers made extensive investments in equipment to get gasoline and diesel up to the top-tier standard in the world in California. So what we have instead is a very arbitrary reduction because 50-50-50 seems to go together. It fits nicely in an SB 350, but it's arbitrary, and it will have consequences. Just to put it in context, 50% reduction by 2030 is 8 billion gallons of gasoline and diesel out of use, not available to your constituents, folks that need to get to school, that need to get to work, that need to get home. So the question one might be asking is, what are we going to replace it with? Is it feasible in this time period? And I would contrast the discussion that we heard even just in the support right here. We heard nuanced conversation about what counts, what doesn't count, rooftop, maybe not. Do we give credits? Do we give any of those discussions? Stark contrast with the fuels discussion in the bill. I think it's about 9 words. It's a clause, not even a full sentence, that we're adding in the statute, and we're giving incredible authority to an unelected body to make it happen. We have a concern with a number. We have a concern with a process. We are delegating a serious part of the economy to the Air Resources Board to make it happen. There is no details in the bill about how, which policies should they adopt. Should they adopt policies that reduce the demand for the product? There's a number of them in place right now. from vehicle efficiency standards to land use requirements. Are we asking the Air Board and are we encouraging the Air Board to reduce the supply of the fuel? 8 billion gallons of gasoline and diesel in 15 years is extraordinary. If we meet all of our requirements, our goals on electric vehicles and non-petroleum using vehicles, we might get to 1.5 million. I think the Air Board's analysis requires 6 to 8 million electric vehicles. Well, we have about 30 million cars in California in use. Your constituents are consumers. So we ought to be looking at a policy and providing direction, if we're going to do this, providing direction to the Air Board not to compromise the availability and the supply of conventional fuels for your constituents. We don't know whether we're doing that or not because there's just simply nothing in the bill. Let me just add one additional point, and I appreciate the time entirely, Mr. Chairman. One additional point, I think we should be careful and not be too comfortable about saying, look, nothing has happened, the sky hasn't fallen. We said, business said there would be all of these concerns and impacts on the economy. Well, the fact is none of the obligations have happened. So all of the obligations on the cap and trade program, on the low carbon fuel standard, they're all backloaded. Backloaded means all of the obligations hit later. We've had a free run so far. So we can say, look, we've stimulated the economy, we've reduced greenhouse gas emissions. Most of that has been the downturn of the economy. But very serious and very real obligations are coming. They're just backloaded. They will start in 2018 and 2020. We know there is a balloon payment coming. We should take a look at that. It's in the regulation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll have 3 main opposition witnesses, 3 minutes each.
Good afternoon. I'm Betty Jo Ticoli. And first of all, I'm a small business owner. And secondly, I'm representing the California Small Business Association. I want to go on record. Small business is not opposed to clean air and green economy. It's the process on how we get there that is critical to us in that direction. We're concerned that it's overly ambitious and that the timeline for the small business community will not work. When we have additional costs that are unanticipated or that we can't control, it directly affects not only small business and big business and consumers, but it affects our ability to create jobs. Job creation is the number one thing I'm concerned about for the small business community. In 2007 in California, we had 1.1 million small businesses with employees. In 2012, we have 638,000 with employees. This is of great concern to us. We did support, as an organization, AB 32, and the one reason we supported it was because there was put into the law that there would be a small business cost impact study done by CARB. If that study has been done, it hasn't been released to us, and this is of concern. We are not always sure that we can count on exactly what the law says. So we're asking for a better timetable, things to be included like hydrogeneration, great consideration for jobs, because that's what small business does, is create jobs in this state. We would ask that you vote no on this bill until these things can be resolved, and the small business community will grow in jobs, not decrease. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, and I just wanted to thank all of you for the time that we've had over the past few weeks to discuss the issues related to this bill. I did want to address briefly the pro tem's mention of our opposition to AB 32. One thing I would note, we, obviously, in the course of advocacy, we make statements. I would note that the growth in California manufacturing jobs, as it compares to the rest of the nation, is anemic at best. Currently, since 2010, which was officially the end of the recession, we have seen about 2.45% growth in California manufacturing jobs. The rest of the nation is 7.63%. So whether or not it has stopped our economy, it has certainly slowed it significantly to the point that manufacturing is not growing as much as it is in other parts of the nation. I did want to also address the analysis, and there are a few points in there. I think first and foremost, the level of authority granted to ARB, and the analysis points this out, is quite dramatic. As we saw with AB 32, a great deal of authority was granted there. Taking it further, we think, is a tremendous error, and that this legislature needs to take more control over what happens with regard to these issues. That authority, that obligation rests with this House, with both houses, I should say, and not with an unelected board of ARB. We think that it should go further, though, making sure you have control over that. Bottom line is, we think that this bill raises too many questions, offers too few answers, too much authority to ARB, too little legislative oversight. The best strategy going forward, both as it relates to all of our environmental goals as well as economic goals, is to grow California's economy. NextGen released a report recently that states California is the second cleanest economy in the world in terms of GHGs, second only to France, which relies heavily on nuclear power, I would note. Additionally, we are the most productive economy in the nation. We produce about 64% more product in California per unit of energy than any other state in the nation does. So we are doing a lot with little, and we continue to do that. In many cases, it makes good business sense. However, the threat of higher energy costs and fuel costs in this bill represents a further disincentive for manufacturing growth in California. That hurts our economy. That further exacerbates income inequality issues in the state, as manufacturing jobs are often the key step out of poverty for many in the state. We would appreciate the committee's support in addressing these issues and look forward. Yes, for a no vote.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. P. Anthony Thomas, representing the California Independent Petroleum Association. And like my counterparts, there's just some issues we have in regard to the bill. But given the enactment of AB 32, SB 4, and a few others, California has once again, and I say this very proudly as a Californian, is the first to pass the strictest climate change regulations in our country. SB 350 is being presented as in the same vein as its predecessors. However, it does present some major concerns, specifically the additional mandates and costs on California small businesses and possibly those who are underrepresented and those who can least afford to pay higher fuel costs. In the bill itself, the legislature provides little to no direction, as my counterpart from WSPA has mentioned, direction to the California Air Resources Board on how much or on how do we actually reach the 50%. How do we reach 50% reduction? I do not see anything in the bill that states how we get there. Again, the policy-making body, which is this here, as well as the Senate, I believe is supposed to give direction to regulators to implement the policies that are drawn from here. If you want to reduce 50% fuel consumption, then so be it. But at least provide some degree of a pattern or a direction on how we're going to do it. Keep in mind what my counterpart said, 8 billion gallons. There are only 3 ways to replace the reduction of fuel. 1, you tanker it in. 2, you rail it in. Or 3, you ration it. The question is solar ready now? Is hydro ready right now? Is wind ready right now? You cannot take this off the market without replacing it with something. As I close, we believe that the risks of 350 outweigh the benefits. And again, unless there is some clarity on how the reduction goals are achieved without major impacts to the California consumer or to small business, this bill remains problematic for SIPA, and we remain in opposition and ask for your no vote.
Thank you. We'll have additional opposition witnesses, please. Come up, state your name, your affiliation, and all of the folks who testify now should be in opposition.
My name is Edward Hazard. I'm president of the California chapter of the National Association of Royalty Owners. We strongly oppose this legislation, and we urge you to, if you do pass it, to keep control, not cede everything to CARB. We need legislative oversight. Thank you.